Hi friends, Andrew Carruthers here, Education Director for Samvia, and welcome back to the Artist Studio. Today we want to share with you something pretty fun because it's kind of the turbo speed way to get great, highly textured layers. Would you believe that this haircut really only has about 6 or 8 sections in it, and at full speed it's going to take you about 5 minutes to cut? Well, believe it or not, I'm about to show you, so stay tuned. Sectioning is going to be really critical here because it's going to be our roadmap for the overall shape. So we're first going to start by parting from the front center all the way to the center back here. And then from the mid crown, we're going to take a section diagonally to the top of the ear. What we're trying to create here is kind of an X pattern that crosses through where we want the shortest point of the haircut to be. For this particular shape, we're going to choose the crown. You could always take this cross and put it at the top of the head, and that's going to change where your shortest point of the layers is. So let's go to this front right quadrant, remove our clip, and we'll take our first section. Now, if she has super fine hair, you can take all of this in one section if you'd like. But because Lydia has a little bit more medium density, we're going to go ahead and take a parting right there at the occipital. That gives us still quite a bit of hair to work with, but it's not going to be exceptionally thick to where it's going to be difficult to work with. I'm going to stand on the opposite side of my guest, opposite of the point of the triangle. So that triangle should be pointed straight into my chest. I elevate the hair straight up towards the ceiling. And what I'm going to choose is a length that this point in the crown falls right where I want it to, but I also need to kind of think about when I pick up that section, at that point, what does that leave me here? And how close to my perimeter does that fall? Because if I want to preserve that perimeter, I want to make sure that after I pick up this last piece of hair and I elevate it all the way up, that I'm not going to cut into that perimeter. And as I do that, you can see that perimeter is falling out. So that tells me I'm going to be okay. So let's go back to our section. And let's elevate that straight up towards the ceiling. And where I want that first point of the layers to fall. By elevating this straight up, it's going to make everything below the occipital fall off very, very quickly. We're going to take the shear, and we chose a really long shear for this reason. We're going to create these really deep peaks and valleys. Now, with this kind of compressed large section cutting. Now, if you're not that dramatic with your movement, you're not going to see the texture as it falls back down into its natural fall. And that's one of the ways that we can soften up the fact that we're taking such a big, large, heavy section. So next, let's pick up everything from the bottom, elevate it to the exact same point, make sure our body is standing directly across from that triangle. And really nothing fits. So I'm just going to kind of define out those peaks and valleys a little bit more. And you can see there are really, really strong separations there. Watch what happens as this falls back down though. Those peaks and valleys soften, but you can still see a ton of texture. Now, because that's such a big section, a big wide section, especially from here to here, and we're cutting it kind of square, it's naturally going to create a little bit of a short to long within that section. So even from section to section, we're going to have this kind of up and down movement that happens. So let's go to the back left quadrant. We'll take our clip out. We'll add that to the front, just keep it nice and secure. Take our section across the occipital there. We're going to go ahead and pick up just a little bit of the other side, but make sure that you're picking up a piece of the other side of the crown because that's your guiding point. Make sure that my body is standing directly across from the point of the triangle. Elevate straight up towards the ceiling. There's my guide from the other side. And then again, make sure that when you're doing this, it is super dramatic. And you can see now why it's so important to have that super, super long blade on the shear. What I think is so cool about these streamlined shears is they're just incredibly sharp. They're super lightweight, super comfortable, but you can blast through a ton of hair with these things. Now we're gonna pick up that last little bit of hair from the perimeter. Again, elevate straight up towards the ceiling. Make sure I don't have anything that's gonna fit in there. I don't, so let's just maybe like strengthen up some of those peaks and valleys to make them really dramatic. And then we'll watch as they fall. Now, here's what's so cool. That's 4 sections of cutting that took me all of, I don't know, a few minutes even with me teaching. And look at how thoroughly and beautifully layered that is. That's what's so cool with this compressed cutting, because since the elevation and the compression of the hair softens that layer, there's just little that you have to do afterwards. It's kind of a one step and you're done kind of haircut. Now, when would something like this not work? It would not work if you're looking for something with a little bit more structure and precision to it. Then you've got to slow down and go into smaller sections. But for this, it just works absolutely perfect. All right, so now we're going to go to the front, that'd be her front left quadrant. Again, take a section across that quadrant. And now look at where the point is. It's over here. So I'm gonna get my section, and then I'm gonna step to the opposite side so that the point is now straight towards my chest, so that I'm consistent with my elevation and over direction. Straight up towards the ceiling. It might look kind of diagonal to you because you're looking at it this way, but what I'm looking at is that it's coming straight out from the section, and then from this view, that's straight up towards the ceiling. Hope that makes sense. There's kind of a side-to-side motion, more of an upward direction, and there's also the elevation, which is straight up to the ceiling. The side-to-side motion, we want to just keep it straight out from the head. We overdirect it back to that crown point. We're going to pick up a small piece right here from the crown from our previously cut section as our guide. And that's all we really need. We don't need a huge guide section. As long as we have a piece for where to start our length, we are set. There's my shortest point. So again, we're going to go in and just let's get rid of some of this length so you can see better. We're gonna go in and really notch this baby out with super deep peaks and valleys. No need to soften this because, again, as it reaches all the way over here to go back to its natural fall, it's gonna soften itself out. So we may even wanna just take one more section because that's still gonna be a lot of hair to pick up if we don't subsection it. So we'll turn this into 3 sections here in the front. Elevate that straight up towards the ceiling, over directing to that point in the crown. There's the guide from the back. And again, super deep peaks and valleys. This can be a little bit intimidating, and it's kind of funny when we teach this kind of cutting in classes, people are so scared to make those big, big peaks and valleys. But we just have to remember that this is not where it lives. Now, if we were down here cutting big peaks and valleys, you would see the strength and the structure of those. But because it's being moved away from its natural fall so dramatically, you're not gonna see that. So just a few little hairs to cut there. We'll let that fall. Now, you can really start to see that beautiful layering pattern come alive in here. So cool. What's also fun about this is the client's reaction. So if you've never done anything like this before with your guest, the first time you do this, they're kind of gonna be like, what are you doing? Like, that's just weird. And it's funny how perceptive they are to those little changes sometimes, because we think that they're just sitting there reading their magazine, hanging out, jabbering away, but especially their subconscious is really picking up everything that's happening. And they'll kind of feel it. They'll be like, wow, you've never done that before, especially if you've been doing their hair for a while. So This is a great way to wake yourself up and have some fun, but it's also a really killer way to wake up the clientele and make sure they're having fun. They also need to see that you yourself are changing and progressing. So there's our point in the crown. There's this section. We're gonna turn her so that I can pull this straight to my sternum. So that triangle, that point of the triangle is coming straight towards me. There's a good view of that elevation. There's the guide. And then I don't typically do this, but I want you to be able to see the cutting line. So we're gonna drop her down so that you can see again, those big peaks and valleys. The cutting line, my finger angle, is just pretty much a straight line. So we're utilizing again the natural curvature of the head. Because I'm cutting a straight line here, but the head is curving underneath it, it's creating these natural short and long points. Now, these are some of the things that we've almost been taught not to do when we look at things like precision kind of minded cutting. And for good reason. You know, if you're looking for real precise and you want everything to be matchy and perfect, then cutting like this is not going to give you that. But we're using that to our advantage because we want texture and we want movement. Point is straight towards my chest. Bring it back to that crown. Right out of the crown, it's going straight up towards the ceiling. There's the shortest point, and we will cut our peaks and valleys. Grab that last piece. Make sure that it's not gonna fit back there. Yeah, there's nothing there. There's kind of like a couple little wispy hairs, but nothing major. That all drops back down. Now what's cool too is you preserve a lot of length around the face, so that leaves you wide open to put any kind of face framing, fringe, anything like that you'd want in there. One last step, just take a couple sections across from side to side, make sure that you don't have anything that's just like totally wacky, out of shape there. That's all pretty good. There's maybe like a little long point there. Don't go too crazy with this because remember, you did all of this so that it is really kind of random and you can see that shape. So because we cut a straight line and a straight line on a curved surface, it creates those peaks. Now, you don't necessarily want to cut those peaks out because that's part of the movement of the haircut. So not only do you have the ups and downs of the peaks and valleys, but you also have the ups and downs of just the overall length of the shape. So let's recap, shall we? First thing, create a section from the forehead to the center nape, then from the center of the crown to the top of the ear at a diagonal, creating 4 equal quadrants. If you want to have your shortest point on the top of the head, you absolutely could move that point to there and just do the exact same thing. You can also change the elevation, you can change the over directions. There's lots and lots of ways to get creative with this overall shape. But on this one, basically we just created a point at the center that everything comes to. Stand with that point facing your sternum and keep a flat cutting line with your fingers so that it utilizes the roundness of the head to create those ups and downs and shorts and longs. When you do that, make sure you grab a long pair of shears so that you can create those deep peaks and valleys. If you do not have a nice long pair of shears, and let's say you just have kind of like shorties, you could potentially work from the inside out with kind of a pinch and talk sort of motion, and that could give you those deep peaks and valleys that you're looking for. From there, just work around each quadrant. Really all you need is that little piece from the center to base your length off of. You don't really look for an actual guide with this haircut except for just that center point. From there, she should be pretty set because you've used such a highly textured process that there shouldn't be a lot of texturizing after the fact that needs done. Maybe you'll need to remove a little weight because of imbalances in the natural hair growth or something like that, but for the most part, she should be pretty ready to go. Now, of course, with this kind of finish, a little bit of Wax Blast 10 is gonna wake it right up, so take the hair, just give it a little bit of a shake. And as we drop it, we'll just put that wax blast right through the ends. Mainly, we want to focus things like waxes on the ends and the mid strand, not the base. Give her a nice little shake. Pardon her back for a second while I make her look all nice for the reveal here. And she's a rocker. So it's just a really fun way to get this awesome layering pattern and do it really fast, because let's face it, sometimes behind the chair, we just have to get stuff done. And we need to get them in, we need to get them out. Whether it's their schedule, they were running late, we're running late, whatever it is. But sometimes we also have to choose our technique based on, I don't have 2 hours to do this haircut. So this is a great way to get beautiful texture, beautiful movement, and do it in about 6 sections. So have some fun with this. Let us know what you think in the comments. You know, we love to hear from you guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Andrew Carruthers, Education Director for Sam Villa.